In the middle of the Australian desert, there's this tiny, remote, indigenous community called Papunya. And you know what? From this place, a place of real serious hardship, an art movement was born that totally took the world by storm. So we're going to dive into the story of how these simple dots on a board became this massive symbol of survival, of culture, and, well, of hope.
So even if the name Papunya doesn't ring a bell, I bet you've seen the art. You know what I'm talking about. Those incredible, intricate patterns, the powerful symbols, those just mesmerizing fields of dots. Yeah, that Western desert style is famous now. You'll find it in huge galleries and fancy private collections from New York all the way to Tokyo.
Right, but here's the thing. This art didn't just appear out of thin air. It came from a very specific time, a very specific place, and honestly, a history packed with hardship, but also incredible resilience. So, what is that story? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into right now.
Okay, so to really get the art, you've got to understand the place first. Papunya. Well, it wasn't some ancient, traditional homeland. Nope, it was a government settlement. And its story? It doesn't start with creation. It starts with displacement.
So, first things first, let's get our bearings. You have to picture yourself deep, deep in the heart of Australia. Papunya, or Warumpi, its traditional name, is about 240 kilometers northwest of Alice Springs, which is the nearest big town. And that isolation, it's not just a detail, it's absolutely central to this whole story.
So you've got decades of displacement kind of squeezed into a few key moments. It all kicks off in the 1930s, when Pintupi and Lurja people are forcibly moved off their ancestral lands. Fast forward to the 50s, and the government sets up Papunya as this administrative center. And then by the early 70s, the place is just packed. We're talking over 1,000 people, way more than it was ever built for. It was a total pressure cooker.
And look, this wasn't just about numbers. The reality on the ground was, it was grim. The whole settlement was just riddled with problems. You had severe overcrowding, awful living conditions, and really serious health issues. On top of all that, you've got different, sometimes rival tribal groups all forced to live on top of each other. It was, like I said, a pressure cooker just waiting to go off.
But then, right in the middle of this crisis, something totally unexpected happens. A single creative spark, and it just ignites a movement that would change absolutely everything.
Okay, the year is 1971. This is it. This is the turning point. In the middle of all that hardship and despair in Papunya, one simple thing happens that's about to kick off a full-blown cultural revolution.
And you know, it all started so simply. The school teacher, a guy named Jeffrey Barden, shows up and sees an opportunity. He gets a group of community elders together and just encourages them to paint a mural on the school wall, using their own traditional designs. And that one simple act, it was like unlocking a floodgate. The men suddenly realized they could tell their ancient stories, their dreaming stories, or chukurpa, on anything, boards, canvas, whatever they could get their hands on.
And this wasn't just some art project or a hobby. No way. The very next year, 1972, the artists got organized and formed their own company, Papunya Tula Artists. And this is so important. It was entirely Aboriginal owned and directed right from day one. That was a huge act of economic self-determination. It gave them control over their art and really over their own future.
But of course, the story doesn't stop there. It takes another big turn, because that powerful desire to leave the troubled settlement, to get back to their traditional country, well, that was about to reshape the entire art movement.
So throughout the 1980s, what's known as the Homelands movement really started to take off. What this means is that many of the original artists and their families started leaving Papunya. They began moving hundreds of kilometers west, heading back to their ancestral lands to set up their own, smaller communities.
And here's the crucial part. Papunya Tula, the art cooperative, it moved right along with them. So suddenly, the company with Papunya in its name wasn't actually in Papunya anymore. This whole exodus left behind this artistic vacuum, right in the very place the movement was born. Kind of strange, right?
So yeah, it created this really strange situation. For years, the name Papunya was famous all over the art world, but the community itself didn't have its own active art center. But that was all about to change. A whole new generation was ready to step up and reclaim that legacy.
Okay, so to get what's happening today, you just have to know about two different but totally related art centers.
You've got Papunya, that's the original, founded back in '72, the one that moved west. And then, much later, in 2007, you have the founding of Papunya Jupi Arts. And it was set up specifically to fill that void, to give the artists who were still living in Papunya a place to work and carry on the tradition.
And let me tell you, this revival has been a massive success. Today, Papunya Jupi Arts supports something like 150 artists from Papunya and the surrounding areas. It's incredible. It means that the flame that was first lit way back in 1971 is now burning brighter than ever, right back in its original home.
So, what's life actually like for these artists today? Well, creating this world-renowned art happens in an environment that's full of extreme challenges, but also this incredibly deep cultural connection.
First off, just think about the climate. We're talking about a place where the average summer temperature is pushing 38, even 40 degrees Celsius. That's well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Just the physical environment itself is unbelievably harsh. And the logistics of daily life? They're just as tough. I mean, just imagine, there's only one general store for everything you need. Mail only comes once a week on a plane. The roads are unsealed, and you've got to watch out for things like feral camels and kangaroos. And the water is so hard, so full of minerals, that it just wrecks your appliances. It's a world away from the pristine galleries where this art ends up, right?
And yet, through all of that, the drive to paint, to create, is still there. And this quote really gets to the heart of why that is. It's not just about making a product to sell. It's something way more fundamental. It's about culture, it's about connecting to your country, to your stories.
So after taking this whole journey, from displacement and hardship to this incredible artistic triumph, what's the big takeaway? What can we really learn from the story of Papunya?
I think this final thought just captures it perfectly. The art that started with some paint on a school wall, it became so much more than just paintings. It literally became a lifeline, a way to hold on to culture, to build an economy, and maybe most importantly, a way to teach and pass knowledge down from one generation to the next. The art isn't just a record of the past, it's the engine that's building a strong future.